The story of military aviation in San Antonio began in February of 1910. On orders from the Army, Lieutenant Benjamin Falloy arrived at Fort Sam Houston and assembled a Wright Flyer. Then, aided by a steady correspondence with Wilbur Wright in Ohio, Falloy taught himself to fly. He joked that he was the only person who ever learned to fly by mail. Within a year, Falloy was commanding a small squadron of adventurous young men who were becoming the first Army aviators. Then, tragedy struck. Lieutenant George Kelly took a Curtiss pusher-up for a test flight and became the first soldier to die in an airplane crash. The accident brought an end to flight operations at Fort Sam for several years. But in 1916, the Mexican Revolution began spilling north across the U.S. border. The Army ordered now Major Falloy and his 1st Aero Squadron back to San Antonio. They were to support General Blackjack Pershing's expedition against Pancho Villa. Unfortunately, the underpowered Curtiss JN-4 aircraft performed miserably. Only one was still flyable at the end of Pershing's campaign. Nevertheless, the Army had seen the possibilities of aviation, and World War I loomed on the horizon. The importance of airplanes to the military mushroomed. In San Antonio, the Army established Kelly Field, named for the unfortunate George Kelly, and soon the first of 4,400 Army recruits were being taught to fly. Among their instructors was San Antonio aviator Eddie Stinson, a hard-drinking but enormously talented civilian pilot. Eddie's sisters, Catherine and Marjorie, also taught flying, but the U.S. Army refused to let women instruct men. Canada, on the other hand, was happy to send its troops to San Antonio to take lessons from the female side of the famous Stinson family. In 1918, the Army opened another airfield in San Antonio, Brooks Field. Brooks became the location for almost all flight instruction, and the mission at Kelly Field began to shift to aircraft repair and maintenance. The end of World War I brought a drastic reduction in the nation's need for pilots and airplanes. The surplus of both led to the romantic era of the barnstormer. Meanwhile, back in San Antonio, military aviation was down, but definitely not out.